Welcome to the first ever episode of Behind the Influencer. Today I'm joined by the amazing Michelle Diaz. And the reason, to give you guys a bit of an insight of why I'm starting this podcast, because some of you may know that I'm on Recipe to Success, which is also my show. The reason why I've started this show is because I wanted to kind of have a platform in the UK where influencers have a voice. They have the opportunity to have meaningful conversations, because a lot of people just look at their Instagrams and they think they know who they are. But it's a nice way to kind of get into who they really are behind their platforms. Michelle, thank you for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So why don't we just kickstart straight away and give everyone an idea of who you are if they don't know you already?
Okay, so hi, my name is Michelle Diaz. I'm 20 years old. I was born in Mexico and I was raised in Mexico and America, but I come to the UK during the summers. I'm a social media influencer. I do Instagram, I do a bit of YouTube, and yeah, I've been doing this for about a year and a half now.
Okay, your accent's really nice. Most people when we, in the UK, we have such weird accent sometimes, but obviously America, I've always loved the American accent. So it'd be interesting to know, because I think I know obviously how big you really are, and that's why I was excited that you actually came, because we've been in conversation for quite a while, but to actually make it happen is great. So for those of people that kind of are interested in how you got started, where did it all begin? Let's start the story. Where did Michelle start in terms of her influencer
I hope
career?
we have time because it's a long
Yeah,
story.
we've got time.
Okay, so I was telling you earlier, whenever I found out that people could upload videos to YouTube and stuff, that's whenever I started watching. But I was always a watcher. For some reason, never had the idea that I could do it. I wanted to, but I didn't know how. I simply didn't know how to start. So I just watched and watched and watched for years and years. And I remember at the time I was probably 11, 12, and I would see girls doing it, and they were my age, and now they're absolutely huge. And I wish I would have started then, but yeah, I was always the watcher. Whenever I was in high school, I was always very to myself. I was shy. I didn't have a lot of friends. It was just, I don't know. I just feel like I don't share the same mentality as the people that I grew up with. Mm-hmm. So I decided to just keep to myself. But then I got into a relationship and everything was fun. But then, it was that high school relationship that turned into being all toxic and you can't have friends and, all that stuff. So he was basically my only friend. He was the only person that I talked to. I literally didn't talk to anybody else. And then I was always used to being with him. So one time he got a job during the night. So he was a year older than me. He was already in college or uni, I guess, what you guys call it here. He was in uni, so he would go to uni in the morning, and then whenever I got out of high school, he would already be going into his job because he worked nights. So I wasn't able to see him. Okay. And I was always used to going with him after school. So whenever he got that job, I had to go to my house, and I was like, what do I do?
How old were you at this age?
I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 17 and a half-ish. And that's whenever I started to,
find another way.
Yeah, I was I need to do something. I need to get a hobby or something because I was driving myself insane. And I started getting into makeup. So, I started playing around with glitter and stuff that was around the house. I didn't have a lot of makeup. I think I had 2 palettes and a couple brushes, but I worked with what I had. And then I decided to make separate accounts. So I made a separate Twitter and a separate Instagram, which are my Michelle X Diaz accounts now. Mm-hmm. And I kept them private. As in, they weren't private pages, but I didn't tell anyone about them.
Okay.
Those were just for my internet friends. And it started, and it was literally 10 people, 15 people that was following me. I would get 2 likes on my pictures, but I didn't care. I just, started posting my stuff. It was something, it was a little getaway, and nobody knew about it. My mom, my sister, my boyfriend, the few friends that I had, nobody knew about it. Mm-hmm. And then I guess it started blowing up. Not really blowing up, but it started getting more and more recognition within the internet community. And then I started taking it a bit more serious. So I started doing editorial looks, and they would literally take me 5 hours to do but I loved it. Like it was a passion that I had. And I remember I would I would go home from school, and since it was winter, the sun would go down really fast. So I would go home, run, take my makeup off, like that I had for school, and then do a look so I could take pictures like whenever the sun was out, because I wanted like good lighting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't have any lighting. I didn't have a good camera. I didn't have any of that. So yeah, it was like that's just how I spent my days. I would just go back home, do makeup, take pictures, post them, and that's what it was like on an everyday basis. Sometimes I would do like 2 looks a day. Like I was very very dedicated, but it wasn't even like something that I was like, oh, I gotta do this. No, like I actually really really enjoyed it, and it was like a passion. And then whenever I tried to make that account a business account, so it was like around 8,000, and I grew that within like what 4 months I think, and it started from zero. And then the other account that I had was at like 2,000, and I had that account for like 2 years. So it was like I was like, oh my god, like I'm blowing up, you know.
Getting somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, and then I tried to make it a business account, but I didn't realize that whenever you connect it to Facebook, because you need to connect an account to make it a business account. So with Facebook, it sent a notification to all of my Facebook friends.
Oh my
You know,
God.
as in, oh, your friend Michelle Diaz has joined as whatever, like
Yeah.
my name was, my username. So I started seeing, like, I started getting notifications of like people from school following that account, and I was like, no, and I started blocking everyone. I was so scared. I was so scared, and I started blocking everyone till it got out of hand, and I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, a lot of people from school saw that, and I was like, they're gonna make fun of me. But at the same time, like, I was getting messages like, oh my god, why didn't you show us this account, blah blah blah, blah. So I went to school, and of course there was bullying, you know. It was a small town in Oklahoma, like middle of nowhere, where everyone is just used to a routine. Everyone is either you know, going to school, getting a job, that's it, or
The general way.
yeah, or just being a failure basically. And everyone was like, what are you trying to do, you know, like, you live in Ponca, like, chill, you know, like, who do you think you are? So yeah, that's basically how it started. Whenever I graduated, I had set the goal to hit 10,000 by graduation, and I hit it 2 weeks before. So I very very, like, I think because I was, whenever I connected like to the Facebook account where other people from school started like finding out about it and stuff, I was like, I'm gonna delete this. Like, I'm done with this. Like, I shouldn't have started this. I regretted it so bad, because I was like, people from school are gonna like roast me. So I remember Morphe. It's like this really big makeup brand.
Yeah, I know it. I think so.
They contacted me, and they were like, hey, like, we're gonna send you product, blah blah blah. And I was so excited. Like, I was like over the moon. And my mom sent me a picture of a package, and it was like 2 little compacts that had like the Morphe thingy on it. And I was so excited, because I was like, oh my god, they actually did. And she was like, yeah, come home. So I go home, and she like tricked me. She only sent me a picture of those 2, but they actually sent me like a ton of stuff. They sent me like every single palette that they had. They sent me like every single brush that they had. And at the time, like, I was working at a restaurant. I was a waitress, and I made about $45 a week.
Wow.
Yeah. So literally one of those palettes was like that much, and I was
Yeah.
like, what? Like, I remember I was so like protective over my makeup. My sister, I think she broke one of my highlighters, and I didn't talk to her for a month.
You didn't want it to ever finish.
Yeah, because it took me like so, like, makeup is expensive, and at the time I was like broke. Like, I didn't have no money at all. So all the money that I would gather, and I would spend it on makeup. So I got really mad at her for that.
So that's it. That's such a great, start to your career. I think obviously you said at the start you were like, it was very hard for you to actually tell people. So everyone found out because you changed it into a business account. Was that your family included?
Yeah.
So everyone at the same time found out from
Yeah,
Facebook?
everybody.
Wow, that must have been rough. So why was it so difficult being in school? Like, was it that people just didn't understand what you were doing? Because now I think it's obviously it's come a long way, I think, from where you started. Now everyone wants to be an influencer. Everyone wants to be, they want to have a big following and stuff. So I'm guessing at that time people didn't really understand it.
Yeah, like I said, Oklahoma is like a town with just a lot of close-minded people. And to start with, a lot of people didn't like me because, like I said, I was like really shy and I didn't talk to a lot of people and stuff like that. So I would just walk the hallways, like I would go from class to class and I would just be by myself listening to music, straight face, and I guess that's like a resting bitch face. So a lot of people didn't like me. Like even though I didn't know their names, I didn't know like who they were, they would still be like, oh yeah, she's such a bitch, and I didn't even know them. But yeah, the whole social media thing made them hate me even more. And then whenever that Morphe thing happened, of course, like I made sure everyone knew about it. So whenever I went back to school, everyone was like, "Oh shit, like, she's kind of doing something." But at the same time, that made people not like me even more.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of like showing them that I was doing something different and that it was working out for me. But yeah.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people, when they're growing up, they tend to be more of who everyone wants them to be, and when they get out of school or education in general, then they realize, wow, we're really just in the real world now, and we can be who we want, and the people that we didn't like, we don't have to face them anymore. So how did you then transition into the real world? Because obviously you set as your goal that you're going to hit 10,000 followers before your graduation, and people might be thinking, wow, that was such an easy story, but I'm sure there was a lot of hardships along the way to get from 0 to 10,000, which now you're over 100,000. So do you think that once you finished school, it made things a lot easier because you didn't have to face the people and you were just focused?
I feel like at the same time, the hate and the who do you think you are, the oh, like you're not gonna make it, your looks aren't gonna take you anywhere, that gave me motivation as well, because I was like, okay, they're saying this, but I have to prove them wrong. So I feel like actually not that long ago, one of them was like, they're always talking on Twitter. They're still talking on Twitter even though I'm 4,000 miles away. But one of them was like, yeah, she's so obsessed with us. Like she always talks about us, blah 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 blah. But honestly, like I thank them because the hate and all the disencouragement and stuff like that is what made me more motivated and basically what got me here.
Mm-hmm. So was that the point where you realized that, wow, I'm actually onto something, when Morphe sent you the packages and you were like, now I just need to really do this?
Yes, because at the time, so before, it was really hard because I didn't have like stuff to work with. So it was like, I remember I would do like some crazy combinations to make something, make like a certain color or something.
Yeah.
And now that I had all this, equipment and tools and stuff like that to help me, I was like, I'm gonna crush it. And I would do the same thing, I'd go back and I would do like my makeup looks and stuff like that. And now I had like a lot of stuff to work with, and then the money that I had from work, actually I quit that job, and then I became a laboratory technician, which was like a really good job for my age. At the time I was like 18, I got paid really good. I really, really liked that job, but I didn't like to be like bossed around. So I only used that money to like buy a nice camera. I bought, my ring light, and I bought like myself like boxes, and I bought like my microphone and all this stuff, and I was like, okay, now I'm ready to start YouTube. But at the same time, it took me a while because even though like I was already used to the hate, I was like, okay, YouTube is like a whole nother level,
Yeah.
So it took me longer to get to YouTube. But
Wow. So for the journey then, because you was on 10K at that point, and then you said at the beginning, and we were talking off air as well, was that you moved around a bit. So you was in Mexico, America, and UK. Is that only recent that has happened, or were you always moving around?
Yeah. No, that has been recent. Like I said before, I used to work as a laboratory technician.
Yeah.
So I only had like a week and a half, 2 weeks for holiday or vacation. So I was only able to go to Mexico like once a year or every 6 months for like 4 days, 5 days or something like that. And then so the reason, I think there has been like two highlights. No, three. Yeah, two highlights of me blowing up. Like 2 posts that were like viral that, you know,
changed everything.
yes, literally those pictures changed everything. The first one was a picture of me with a flower in my hair. I remember I was at home and I was bored. It was my day off from the lab because I would work at the lab like for a whole week, and then the next week I would just have one day off. But I would literally work from like 8 p.m. I mean 8 a.m. to like 7 p.m. Like
I'm guessing in the lab as well, you can't wear any makeup or anything. Like it's just very strict conditions.
Yeah, no nails, nothing like that. Your hair up. So that was like my free day, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my makeup, and I did my makeup, and I remember I was home alone. I was in the living room and I was playing music, and there was this. Well, that part of the story will come later, but I took some pictures, I posted them, and they just went viral. They were everywhere. They were like in websites. They were in like website stores. They were in a couple magazines. So from those pictures, my manager says that's whenever the first agency that I was with like discovered me, I guess. And they called me. Well, the manager called me and she was like, "Hey, we really want to sign you. We're based in New York. Let's have a call." So we had a call and everything, and I was like, okay, I'm down, you know? I was like, this is like becoming like official. And she was telling me like how she manages like other girls, and the other girls that she managed, I would literally like fangirl over. Like those were girls that I had been watching for years. So I was like, that is so crazy, like how we're gonna be in the same team. So she sent me over the contract, and even though I was 18 already, I didn't have to tell my parents, but I did anyways. And I told them, and I was like, hey, you know, like this company, this agency is trying to sign me. They were like, no. Okay. And I was like, oh, why not? So I made like a huge deal out of it. I never like argued with my parents, but I remember I didn't talk to them for like a week, and they were like, okay, no. Before that, I actually signed the contract.
Was this a modeling agency or influence agency?
Talent agency.
Talent agency. Okay.
Yeah. So I actually signed the contract even though they told me no.
Oh wow.
And my manager was like, oh yeah, also you're coming to New York in like what, it was like a week or something like that. And I was like, what? So of course I had to tell my parents, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to New York in like a week. And they were like, what? I had never been to New York. I never even thought I would go to New York. And they were like, what the hell? Like, did you sign the contract? I got in trouble, blah, blah, blah. So after that, it was when I didn't talk to them. And because they were like, you're not going. And so I wasn't talking to them because, you know, I was so upset. I was like, how are you going to stop me from doing something that I want to do? And, you know, I have this opportunity. It's like once in a lifetime opportunity. So one time I was in my room, they came in and they were like, okay, we're going to let you go only if we go with you. And I was like, all right, fine. You guys can come along. So we flew over to New York. It was my first time in New York and my mom's first time in New York. So we were like so excited. We were there together, and you know, we looked around the city, and they were there to protect me and to like keep me from danger. I didn't see them the whole trip. I have a 6-year-old brother, so that was their first trip without my 6-year-old brother. So they had like a blast. Like they did. They were just enjoying
their own time.
Yeah, they had like a holiday of their own. And you know, I was like with my agency. I was like with the other girls from the agency. I remember that was the first time that I got involved into the influencer world. We went to Generation Beauty in New York, and it's like this huge beauty event. So at that event, I saw Mario. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's Kim Kardashian's makeup artist. Yeah. And then I met Nikki Tutorials. We talked to her. I met Nikita Dragon, Manny MUA, like the biggest people in like the makeup world. And at the time, I was more into makeup than anything else. Now I do like fashion, lifestyle, and all that stuff. But at the time, I was like, oof, like makeup was like my life. So meeting them was so mind-blowing. That was like the first experience that I had. And then remember when I told you, you know, when I was like 11, 12, I would watch all these girls do makeup. My favorite girl was Michelle Phan. She doesn't do makeup anymore. She's like a businesswoman now. But she was like my one. Like I would always watch her videos, and I'd be like, Mom, like come watch her video with me. My sister, hey, come watch this video with me. Grandma, come watch this video with me. Like I loved her. She's basically like the reason why I got into makeup. Wow. And whenever we were at Generation Beauty, for some reason we didn't look like through the catalog of the meetups and stuff like that. And I was walking and I looked up and I saw like a picture of her, and it said like meet and greet, and I was like, No.
That was a big moment.
Yeah, so I was like, what the hell? I literally got on the line like the first time that I saw it. I was waiting there for like an hour, and then I came like face to face to her, and I was like, yo, like
You was in
she's
shock.
real. Yes, like I literally have been watching her for like more than 5-6 years, and like having her like in front of me and being
Yeah.
like, what? It was so mind blowing. I almost cried. I was being such a fangirl. But yeah, we took a picture together, and then after that, we went like, since we were there as creators, we went into the green room. So we were just chilling, you know, with like all the big YouTubers and stuff. And I was like, how did I even get here? You know, like a week ago, I was doing my makeup for fun in my living room, and now like I'm in New York chilling with all these people.
I think this was the first time that it probably felt real for you, because you were just creating content, you know, in your living room and just posting on Instagram, and then you would see the reaction, but you wouldn't really see other people that were doing it, or it didn't probably feel real to you until you got there, and then you're actually in the world.
Yeah, and it was my first time around other influencers as well. So like in Oklahoma, I think there's like a couple other influencers, but I have never met them till this day. And you know, being in New York, being like in that huge city, being like in at that big convention as a creator, and it was just mind blowing. And I was 18. I had just gone out of high school.
Wow, so that was a big highlight for you. You said that there was like two big events. Was it, one of them was the event?
One of them was the picture. So
Okay,
the picture
okay.
is what got me discovered by that agency. I'm not with that agency anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one. And then the other one, so it was actually because of that agency, I came to London. So they brought us to London and Paris.
For the first time?
Yes,
Okay.
in 2017. It was November 2017. I came to London, I came to Paris, and you know, we came here and it was like a work trip. So it was like a lot of photo shoots and meetings with brands and all this stuff. So it wasn't a holiday. It was actually really, really stressful. And I remember whenever I got here, British Airways lost my luggage.
No
So
way.
I had to be dealing with that for like 2 days. I was only here for like 5 days, I think. We only had like 3 days, and I barely got to see the city. I remember we drove by Waterloo, and I was like, but I didn't get to like get out and see or anything like that. I didn't get to tourist around, but I fell in love with the city. Like I totally fell in love with it. And then we went to Paris, and in Paris there was like, you know, more touristing and stuff like that, and it was like more chill. But after that, I was like, okay, I have to come back to London. Like it's a must. So I went back to America. I worked at the lab. I remember I would work like from 8 to 8 sometimes. Like their schedules were pretty illegal, I'm not gonna lie. And at the time I was 18. So, but I didn't care. Like I liked what I did, and my sister worked with me, and we're really close. So I didn't mind. It was really, really good money, and I kind of stuck that money, and I was like, okay, I'm moving to London, and I was already 18 at the time.
Oh, so that was your dream then at that point? You wanted to move to London?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I knew that I couldn't move here permanently, but
Yeah.
you know, I was like, I want to experience life over there. So, you know, I packed my bags April 28, 2018. Yeah. I flew to New York, and then from there I came to London, and I was just here on my own.
Wow.
And it was amazing.
Was it your first time at real independence as well?
Yes. I had never lived on my own. I had never been I had been away from my mom and like my parents and my sister, but it was because I was in Mexico with my grandma. So that's like I wasn't like on my own really, because I was like still with family. But here, the first 2 weeks that I spent here were pretty depressing, because at the same time I was like, what have I done? Because I left school as well.
Oh, okay.
I was in uni, and I was like, I'm gonna leave this. I don't like this. And I told my parents, growing up, it was always like, oh, you have to be, you know, you have to go to uni in order to be successful. If you don't do good in school, you won't be successful. Like that's the mentality that they gave me growing up. So I was like, what have I done? Like I left everything, and I'm like in the other side of the world by myself. You know, like what am I gonna do? So I remember I started collabing, and I was like, I have to get out of the house. And then I came here in April, so it was raining, and I didn't know how to use a tube. I lived up in Collindale.
Okay.
like the
Yeah.
end of the Northern Line.
Mhm.
So that's pretty far from Central.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to use a tube or anything like that. So it was really depressing. I would call my sister and I'd be like, what did I do? Come get me or something. Like, I'm gonna go back. And she was like, no, it's okay. Like, you know, you'll settle in and stuff. But yeah, that was pretty hard. I was really lonely. I didn't have any friends. But, you know, I made the best out of it. And then I remember the first friend that I made, her name is Shani, and she contacted me through Instagram, and she was like, hey, I'm a hairstylist. Do you want to collab? And I was like, yes, of course. So she came over to my place, and she was like, oh, I forgot some products. Do you want to go to Central to, like, buy them? And I was like, yeah. So we went to Central. That was, like, my first time in Central ever since I had arrived in London. So that was, like, 2 weeks after. Um, we went to Central, and I was like, wow, like, this is so cool. And she was, like, showing me, like, where to go and, like, what trains to take. She was just, like, basically teaching me everything that I needed to know.
Teaching you the
And
ropes,
then, yeah. And then she was like, oh, come over to my place. Let's do your hair there. And then there at her place, I met, like, some of her friends. And, you know, they were all really nice. So that became, like, a little, you know, group of friends that I had. And then I started making, like, different group of
more
friends.
relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the artistic group of friends, and then I had like the YouTuber group of friends, and then I had the music industry group of friends and stuff like that. And then so I came here and I met this boy, and then he broke my heart.
Really, in London?
So, yeah.
Shame on you.
Shame on him. But yeah, that happened. But you know, I feel like everything happens for a reason. Because of that, I remember I was so down. I was like, I'm about to go back to America, you know. And then this guy hit me up on Instagram, and he was like, hey, I have a business proposal for you. I know that you already make money from your phone, so would you like another source of income? And I was like, that sounds good. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I wasn't like, my head wasn't like fully in it.
Yeah, you were a little bit.
So I was like, yeah, we can meet up, but like, I'll tell you when. And I never told him when. So I remember after I got like my heart broken, he contacted me and he was like, hey, like, let's meet up. You know, my business partner's with me. She's a girl, so you won't feel like uncomfortable or anything like that. And I needed something to do. Like, I needed to get out of the house. I needed to stop crying. So I was like, okay, let's meet up. So I meet up with him, and it's Miriam and Akif. Miriam became my best friend as we were walking out of that meeting.
Wow.
Like, we were walking out of that restaurant because we met at this like Italian restaurant. We talked business and stuff. We were walking out of the meeting like literally hugging. She has came to Mexico with me now.
No
she
way.
came to my house in Oklahoma. She knows my
Wow.
parents.
So you just basically connected.
Yes, like
really well.
She is like my best friend soulmate, literally. So I'm always grateful to that guy for doing whatever, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have met her. And then at the same time, I got introduced into the financial market and stuff like that, which has been doing really good. And that's eventually going to become like my main
focus,
thing.
yeah.
But yeah.
So now you've got the trading, obviously I know that as well, and then you've got the whole platform in general. When did it become able to monetize? Because a lot of influencers, I think they struggle because people generally, they think, wow, someone's got 100,000 followers, but then that person may not be business minded, and so they can tend to get, like, if you want, bumped by the brands. You know, the brands don't really kind of respect them in a way. Like, they're like, yeah, let's just get what we need to get, and then that's it. So when did you kind of find that, you know what, I can actually earn a living from Instagram? Was it just because organically the brands were paying you anyway, or?
It was like March of 2017. Yeah, it was like around March. And once I saw that it was, you know, a good income, that's whenever I was like, all right, I'm gone.
Yeah. So what do you say to those people that think your life is just only glamour and there's no stress and there's no hardships? Because people really think about it, and they look and they think, well, Michelle's on holiday, she's in London, then she's going to Mexico, then she's going to America, and then, you know, there's a lot of influencers that are just constantly traveling, and people look up to them in a way where they're like, oh, I would love to have that life, but they don't realize that there is a lot of work behind it.
Yes, there is definitely, there's a lot of work behind everything, honestly. Just I guess the way we portray ourselves, we make it seem like it's perfect. I've been talking about this on my social media for the past months. I feel like I was, I became an influencer, but I was only influencing things that everyone can influence, as in like, products and like lifestyle and all that stuff. But I shouldn't be using my platform for that. I should be using my platform for something like, for deeper stuff. Like,
Yeah.
since I have the opportunity to influence, I might as well influence something good on people. As in, like, go out there and start your business, go out there and travel, go out there and do whatever you want to do and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of influencers have like the platforms, but they don't use them wisely.
Hmm. I think when I look back, I think I started speaking to you about last year, when we first connected, and straight away I was like, this girl's so nice, because you were just so like open minded, like you were just, you didn't really have that diva mentality, and I think that's probably why good things have come your way as well, and it makes sense now that you're obviously trying to push general good messages as well, like to show people that anything is possible, you can do it as well. So when did you then transition from just makeup? Because before it started off as makeup, and then you started doing fashion. Was that just a recent thing?
No, that was that started like last year, I guess. Like when I came to London. Yeah, it was when I came to London because I'm in London. It's a beautiful city. So I would do 4 to 5 photo shoots a week, and they weren't like paid or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would contact photographers or they would contact me. We'd put a shoot together and just shoot for free. But that was kind of like an investment into like my career and like my what's it called, like my portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave me a lot, and then because of that, a lot of fashion brands started working with me and stuff like that, and I started kind of steering away from makeup because I wasn't really that passionate about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really want to do something I'm not passionate about. I still like makeup, but I was into that editorial makeup. Like,
Yeah.
I would go out and wear like green eyeshadow and stuff like that. I still love it. I think it's a form of art. It's hard to do. It takes a lot of time, a lot of skill, but I just am not passionate about it anymore.
So so obviously that became the focus. You moved away from that. When did you then hit the next milestone of 100,000 followers? And did that then kind of feel for you like, wow, like life is really, like really changing now? Or did it not feel like anything?
It was like, I feel like they're just numbers. I feel like it's more like how you carry yourself. Let's say like I myself was putting was contacting brands and was like doing business and doing different stuff and creating content, and everything that I did, everything that I do, I try to make it as high quality as I can and stuff like that. So 3 digits, I mean 6 digits,
Yeah.
I guess. It's really not that big of a difference. I feel like now, especially, followers are just followers. It's more about engagement now.
Mm-hmm.
And like how many people reach you, how
Yeah,
loyal your
definitely.
followers are and stuff like that. Because you don't want to have a following where people don't really care about you. Like, let's say at the beginning, people only cared about me because of my makeup. And then I started showing my personality more. Like on Twitter, I've always spoken my mind. I've always share my thoughts on everything. Like, doesn't matter who makes it, if it makes you mad, doesn't matter if like I get in trouble for it. I always will be very open-minded and talk about everything, and defend people that need to be defended. So people started seeing that, and then people started appreciating me as an actual person. So everything that I would put out, if it was fashion, if it was videos, if it was makeup, they would all support it because they liked me as a person,
Yeah.
not what I did.
Okay, wow. So, I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but recently, Instagram's been talking about removing the likes from people's posts. And obviously that's the world that I'm in, so it obviously affects a lot. And I think it's interesting because you said that the numbers don't really make too much of a difference to you. But generally they do make a big difference to some people. And some people, they look at their likes and think, that's how popular I am. Or, especially the people that aren't influencers, just the average person, they may think, oh, I will be judged based on how many likes I have. And I think that's one of the reasons why Instagram's testing it. What do you think about that? Do you think that will affect the influencer game a lot? Like if other people can't see your likes.
Yes, I think whenever it comes to business, it would really, really, really hurt the influencer market because that's what we live off of. You know, we live off of how much clout we have
Yeah.
or how much attention we get. So yeah, it'll definitely hurt the influencer business and stuff like that, which is why I've been not only doing influencing but also like doing other stuff on the side and stuff like that, because I know that social media is going to be around for a long time, but
Yeah.
I don't want to be an influencer like forever.
Mhm.
As in, like, I want to keep influencing people, but not whenever it comes to like sponsorships and stuff like that. Of course, I want to put out an example and like inspire people, but I don't want to have to worry about sponsorships and money and all that stuff. I just want to put out a good image for everyone out there.
Is there any reason for that? Is that because you're just kind of bored of that, or
Um,
is it just because you're more business minded and you want to then now start focusing on different ventures?
yes, I feel like I became a lot more business minded ever since.
By the way, guys, she's only 20.
I became way more business minded whenever I started, fidgeting with all the financial markets kind of stuff. And I saw like, whenever you're in that community, I absolutely love it. I always tell people that it's like we're all a family, literally. Like, we're all trying to help each other. And whenever you come from the influencer and modeling world where everyone is like fighting with each other and everyone's competing and everyone's like very nasty with each other, everyone's fake, being in a community like that is very healthy. It's a very healthy community. Mm-hmm. And they're all about self-development. They're all about, we have like group chats and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, good morning, make sure you crushed your day today and stuff like that. So it's just, I feel like that made me more mature in a way as well, because I don't know, it's all about the mindset.
Yeah, I think it's crazy probably if you look back and you think, a few years ago you were just sitting in Oklahoma and now you're in London, also in Mexico, also in the US traveling, and then you're also trying to grow your business, and you've probably, mindset-wise, you've probably grown a lot as well over the years.
Yes.
Not just in age, obviously, but also because of the things that you're involving yourself in. So what would you say is like next now? Is it just focus on the business ventures? Will people miss you? I mean, people are gonna like be upset if they stop seeing you on Instagram and stuff.
No. What I mean with like, I always tell people that I'm gonna quit social media, but what I mean with that is not actually like, oh, I'm gonna delete my accounts.
Yeah.
No, it's not gonna be that, but I'm not gonna care about followers. I'm not gonna care about likes. I'm not gonna care. Like, I want big brands to come to me and me be able to be like, no, thank you, like that. I want to just live a normal life without being on the spotlight. Mm-hmm. But still, influence people to do better and stuff like that. Because okay. I'll still have that platform, but I don't want to be worrying about like the money and the whole like clout thing and who you hang out with and all that stuff. I think that's very unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about a lot of the journey and a lot of the success that you had along the way. What would you say were some of the challenges, other than obviously, some of the groups are a little bit nasty and there's a lot of clout chasing and things like that. Were there any challenges that you faced along the way where people had no idea that was going on in your life?
Not really, honestly. Well, it's being in Oklahoma, I literally just sat in my room and I just worked from there. The majority of my audience and majority of like the platform that I have, I grew it in my little house in Ponca City, Oklahoma, laying in bed, literally. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of people do that whenever they're like in LA or they're like in New York, and they're like up and down and they're hanging out with like other famous people or other influencers and stuff like that. That's like how they grow theirs. But I feel like I'm really proud of the way that I grew mine, because I know that I grew it on my own and by being real with people.
Yeah, 100%. So now obviously is an exciting time because you've got a lot going on and the future's looking bright. What would you say to anyone that has not been so supportive along the way, because the internet age is difficult. There are a lot of haters. I'm sure you probably deal with a lot, and also, I mean, it's quite upsetting that the school kids now as well, the kids that are growing up now, they have to go through that. Where I remember when I was in school, like there was no social media, so I've seen world pre and post social media. I think it was just coming about actually, and so now like it's a little bit more challenging because you're literally in school, you've got a phone, you've got an Instagram, and you can get bullied online. And so before you'd probably get bullied in school, for some people, and then you'd go home and then you'd switch off and then you'd have to start again the next day. But for some people it carries over all the way until they go home. So how would you say, I mean, how have you dealt with any kind of hate, and what would you advise people that are dealing with hate, influencer or not influencer?
Honestly, not that long ago, I was already here. It was like a month ago or so. It started again. Locals back at it on Twitter. Talking all this and calling me all these names and bringing up past stuff. All they did was like, it's good. Thank you for the hate. Thank you for all that. Can you look at your life and look at mine? I was like, I don't even remember you. I don't even remember your name. I don't even know who you are, yet you are here. I'm not going to block you. I'm not going to say anything bad to you. Just take a look. This is what you do. You decide to harass people on the internet, which is why you are in the position where you are.
Mm-hmm.
I decide to do myself. I decide to grind. I decide to, hustle and do my thing, focus on myself, and look at where I'm at.
Yeah.
Just take a look at that, literally. Yeah. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, yeah, you're so stuck up and you think you're better than everyone, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't even know you. I've never said anything bad to you. Your name has never come out of my mouth. Why? Because I don't even know your name. So is this a personal thing that you have? Do I think I'm better than you, or do you think I'm better than you? Yeah. It's I don't know. I decide not to argue with them anymore. It's why? Are they paying my bills? No. So it's why even waste my time with them? I decide not to block them because, I like for them to see my life, and I like for them to see what happens whenever you mind your own business. Some of them were saying oh yeah, you're not the only one in Europe, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, I'm not the only one in Europe, from Oklahoma, from high school, but are the people that are also in Europe and are also traveling around, do you see them talking shit to me on social media? No, they're doing their own thing, which is why they're traveling, which is why they're living their best lives. But then look at you. You're over here, talking and talking and talking, even though I haven't seen you in years. I haven't seen anybody ever since I graduated. And look at the position that you're at. Yeah. It's simple. It's common sense.
100%. It's all about focus and just kind of neglecting all of that kind of thing. I think it's, for some people it may sound as it's easier said than done, but I think obviously when you do remove yourself eventually from that situation, it becomes easier. And what you will realize is that if you are going through something difficult right now, it's not going to be forever.
It's always temporary.
It's always temporary, but it's also how you have to look at it. And I think sometimes your life circumstances and situations is what makes you who you are. Exactly. Who would have expected you to be in London 3 years ago, and then fall in love with the city? But yeah, I mean, it's been so good having you here. I would love to continue, but I think for those of you that don't know, it's really, really hot. We're sitting in the office, and we had to close the windows just so that you guys get the best audio possible, and of course visuals as well. But I'm melting. I don't know if you guys can see or not. So we will have to wrap it up. But it's been amazing having you here. Just for those people that may not have seen you before or have seen you but they want to kind of follow you, what's the best way for them to keep an eye on Michelle?
You guys can follow me on Instagram at Michelle X Diaz. I'm on YouTube as well as Michelle Diaz. Yeah, Michelle Diaz. And then I'm on Twitter as well as Michelle X Diaz. Just Michelle X Diaz everything, basically.
Amazing. Thank you guys all for tuning in. This was the first episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We've got a lot more coming up, and hopefully, when Michelle's back, we'll get an update from her, see how her trading's going, and have her back on. But do make sure you like, share, subscribe. to the YouTube. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do subscribe as well. It's definitely been an exciting thing to kind of turn this into a real podcast because it's something I've been thinking about doing for a long time. Definitely something I hope you guys get value from as well. So be sure to stay tuned in. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me.